Caged bears forced to beg passerby for food finally gets a taste of freedom. There's a reason Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz was afraid of lions, tigers, and bears. They're powerful animals capable of great destruction, especially that last one. Stumbling across a bear in the wild is enough to make anyone shake with fear. This strength is also their downfall, at least in some parts of the world. Ex-Soviet states have placed bears in small prisons at restaurants and bus stops as entertainment props for passersby and patrons. Two such bears in Armenia, Misha and Dasha, had spent 10 years in a small cage, never knowing true freedom. But when one publication shined a light on the bears' horrific situation, one organization stepped up in a big way to save the day. It's difficult to think of an animal more fierce than a bear. It has a rare combination of size and speed that makes it nearly impossible for you not to become a knee-knocking mess if you stumble upon one in the wild. Unfortunately, those attributes have made bears symbols of power that makes them just as alluring as dangerous. In countries such as Armenia, restaurants, malls, and factories are capturing bears to put on display for entertainment purposes. Bears like Misha and Dasha, shown here, are two such victims. Misha and Dasha's lives were simple. Entertain those eating at the Riverside restaurant opposite their cage. Likely kept in a cage since they were cubs, Misha and Dasha spent their days pacing the small cage and never knew true freedom. Would they ever? To the horror of many, these bears were severely underfed and so desperate for food they'd nibble on twigs. Yet they were visual entertainment for restaurant patrons gorging themselves on food. They were lucky if sympathetic patrons shared some scraps. Located in the Armenian capital of Yerevan, the bears lived a miserable existence at the restaurant in question. That was until finally one organization decided to work an attempt to free the bears for good. But would their plan work? When a website first highlighted the plight of Dasha, a female, and Misha, a male, it stirred public outcry. Soon, sympathetic people all over the world donated thousands of dollars to help give these bears a better life. That money found its way to the International Animal Rescue, IAR, and the rescue group quickly went to work. With the help of an Armenian group called the Federation for the Preservation of Wildlife and Cultural Assets, East Essex-based IAR secured permission from the Armenian government to rescue these poor bears from captivity. Their process was no easy task, however, and it called for some heavy-duty power tools. The first part of the process seemed a bit sinister, but it was all for the good of the bears. Veterinarian Rosa Jalma tranquilized the bears so they couldn't resist their rescuers. Uncooperative bears would have made the process a bit more difficult than it needed to be. To free the bears that had once been destined to life in caged entertainment, IAR needed fire department officials to bring tools strong enough to cut through the thick metal bars. So that the bears could be removed without issue, they cut a few bear-sized openings. After being administered tranquilizers, the bears would sleep peacefully, enjoying their bear dreams as rescue workers moved freely about the environment without worrying about being attacked. Even though the animals had been malnourished, they could still pack a punch if they felt threatened in any way. The bears weren't quite ready for transport, even after ending up on the receiving end of a tranquilizer. IAF and medical professionals needed to ensure the bears were in a stable condition to make the long trip ahead of them. Given the circumstances they'd been forced to deal with, it was impressive that Misha and Dasha were in as good a physical shape as they were. IAR Chief Executive Alan Knight summarized the physical plight of these bears succinctly when speaking with the Daily Mail. Many of them relieved their boredom and frustration by pacing endlessly to and fro. Alan continued to detail all that Misha and Dasha went through on a daily basis, saying they passed the time banging their heads against the walls or climbing up the bars, searching frantically for an escape route. These bears endured that terrible life for 10 years. For the bears' safety, IAR needed to utilize a few devices to ease the moving process. Since they couldn't very well pick up the bears, they had to rig up a rope system to help with distributing the animal's weight. Both bears received similar treatment after being tranquilized. While it might have seemed like an unfortunate process, the end result for these bears would make all the discomfort worth it. After all, IAF planned to bring them to a bear sanctuary where they could live free and snack to their heart's content. It took the strength of 8 men to lift each bear out of the cage so that they could be put into a large transporter. Naturally, bear rescue is a group effort. Finally, Misha and Dasha were free from their terrible prison. The sad truth, unfortunately, is that Misha and Dasha weren't the only bears that needed rescuing. It's not uncommon for bears to be placed in captivity all over ex-Soviet states, which still view the bears as symbols of power. I see the conditions these bears are living in for myself, IAR Chief Executive Alan Knight told the Daily Mail, and they're nothing short of appalling. Luckily, the IAR team could provide a certain peace for these 2 bears who needed to be transported from the facility in special metal crates. Knight continued, admonishing the conditions these bears were subjected to. Some bears have been living for years in small barren cages, he said, surviving only on scraps and filthy stagnant water and standing on stinking mounds of their own feces. Misha and Dasha were the first of 80 bears that IAF set free in sanctuaries. Many efforts have been made to educate certain communities on just how cruel this kind of imprisonment is to the bears. But unfortunately, there's still a lot of work to be done. In the meantime, Misha and Dasha could at least enjoy some semblance of true peace and happiness. It's beyond unfortunate that these bears are taken as healthy, fit cubs and forced into a lifetime of captivity. Hopefully, IAF can see most, if not all, of these bears freed from their prisons.